Rotation is around the corner, and our first look at the Scarlet and Violet block is here. The Champions League in Aichi did take place on February 25th with 3,140 players playing a best-of-1 tournament all the way through, and we saw Lost Box come out on top. Now, with this tournament, we are losing all the D block cards, which mean cards like Scoop Up Net, a Quick Ball, Marnie, will no longer be in our format, and a couple other staples. I can't really think of the rest off the top of my head, but I did make a video about, what we're losing, what's sticking around, and what top decks will keep the cards they're keeping. And we saw these 16 players, after 9 rounds of Swiss Day 1, 5 rounds of Day 2, into a top 16 cut. This is what it boiled down to. These were the 16 decks. We see Lost Box, we see Mew, we see Lugia, but not the Lugia you're used to. Only one Giratina, and a handful of the new Gardevoir EX card coming out in Scarlet and Violet. Hi guys, my name is Rahul Reddy, and today we're going to be looking at these new decks, or not new decks, but lists with the post-rotation format, what's different about them, what you guys should be looking forward to with the rotation coming up in just over a month, probably 5 weeks, five and a half weeks, at the European International Championships that'll kick us off in the rotation and the new format. So this is what's going to be the format. In first place, we had Shizuya Yamamoto playing Lost Box. We see only one Cram in this version of Lost Box, so it's not as much like I need to get to the turn 1 attack, because now you don't have 4 Scoop Up Nets. You have the 4 Switch cards, you have the 4 Escape Ropes, and you have the 2 Beach Courts, which is just a free retreat on a basic, or -1 retreat on a basic Pokemon, I believe. You have Snorlax to do a ton of damage, the Zamazenta to do a ton of damage, Raikou plus Sealstone to kind of top off some knockouts in that Lugia matchup, and then Drapion plus Sealstone to top off the knockouts in the Mew matchup. We see an Echoing Horn, which is a very interesting addition to kind of close out those games, because now you don't have that early game pressure as much. No Quick Ball and no Capture Energy. Both those cards are gone, so there's Nest Ball replacing that. Clara being the recovery of choice now that Ordinary Rod is no longer in the format as well. Recycler to bring back energy is still something that makes a lot of sense, but Clara being the replacement is also a little bit interesting to me. Manaphy is still around, you still have your Greninja, all that good stuff is still around. And second, we have Riku playing Gardevoir EX. Now, Gardevoir EX is a card that says Psycho embraces the ability. You may use this ability as often as you like during your turn. Attach 1 basic energy from your discard pile to one of your Pokemon, then put 2 damage counters on that Pokemon. This is not limited to a rule box or a non-rule box, so the goal is to get a bunch of Psychic Energy into the discard and accelerate to your board. Miracle Force recovers all special conditions, does 190, so it's a big beater. 2-shots everything in the format. Doesn't get 2-shot, or I guess it gets 2-shot by things in the format as well, but it is a stage 2. So while setting it up, you have 3 Curlias that have Refinement. The Curlia with Refinement basically is trade, discard a card from hand, draw 2. So that's the way to get the Psychic into the discard while setting up. And you can get the Mirage Steps Curlia out turn 2, potentially, and just get 3 Curlias onto the board. That's what it does. And then Shining Arcana Gardevoir is another interesting card, because Shining Arcana Gardevoir says once during your turn, you may look at the top 2 cards of your deck, search any number of basic energy there, attach to your Pokemon, and put the rest of the cards in your deck. So if you go into 1 or 2 Shining Arcana Gardevoir on your bench, you're basically getting to put not cards in the discard for free, but cards onto your board for free. Zacian V is another way to cheat out energy for free. With its ability. This Cresselia, I don't know what this guy does actually. It moves 2 damage counters from each of your Pokemon to one of your opponent's Pokemon, so you can kind of spread out the damage onto 6 guys with the Gardevoir, and then just 12 damage onto something to close out the game. The Mysterious Style Mew to search in the early game. 3 copies of Judge, so even though this is a stage 2 setup deck, it's saying I'm going to have my cards to draw cards with Curlia and Gardevoir, and you're going to be the one who gets stuck under these Judge things. A lot of different supporter counts. 4 VIP Pass again, which is very interesting. Only 3 Rare Candy, but I guess you're going through the Curlia line, which does make sense. So you can have Curlias and multiple Gardevoirs out, which is interesting. 3 Fog Crystal, I feel like that should be a 4 for sure. I think everything in this deck benefits from having a Fog Crystal. 1 Sky Seal Stone, once again, trying to knock out like the Zacian V plus Sky Seal Stone. Knocking out something will just close out the game quicker, I guess. Emergency Jelly making a lot of sense to when you're accelerating. If your Gardevoir doesn't get beat up pretty quickly, you can just heal it. And that's kind of scary because it's a very big attacker. And this way you're not knocking yourself out when you're powering up your attackers. Temple of Sinnoh and Collapse. Collapse acting as a healing card, I think, more than anything in this situation. So if a Gardevoir gets damaged, you can bring it to the bench and you can heal it. Yeah, So pretty simple. And this Gardevoir also has 60 plus 30 for, or 30 or 20 for each Psychic attached. So pretty interesting deck. I think Gardevoir is okay. Maybe it's just best of one Copium, but yeah. Ayato in third, playing Lost Box, a very different version, playing 2 Cry of Destruction Yveltal, targeting the Lugia deck specifically. Again, Sky Sailstone making its way in almost every deck we've seen so far. Zapdos V, Galarian Zapdos V to kind of just put a lot of pressure, I guess, on things. Same thing with the Claras. Opting to play Pokegears. Oh, excuse me, sorry. Opting to play Pokegears to find those one-off supporters a little bit more, I guess, consistent to find those things. 3 Gates, Heavy Ball to find those prize guys. A little bit more on the disruption side. And fourth, we have Tomokazu playing Mew. Fusion Mew is here. It is still 1 Meloetta, which is really interesting, even though it's a Fusion Strike-based build to get energies out into the play. Keep in mind that tools are different now. So Forest Seal Stone, Choice Belt, a Feather Ball, and Nest Ball. Quick Balls are no longer in the format. So other alternative ball search cards, I guess, making their way into this list. Nest Ball probably could be a higher count. It's like a pseudo VIP pass for 1, and you can just fail them early. But I guess once your bench is clogged, you're never doing that. So Path Judge is just a combo as always. No other counter stadiums. Interesting for a Mew list. You probably want at least one way to bump a stadium besides your 4 vacuum. Never mind, it's fine. In fifth, we have we don't have Koga's list, who's in fifth. In seventh, we have sixth, we have Kazuma's list, which is our first look at new Lugia, which becomes single strike Lugia, 4/4 Lugia, 4 Archeops, bringing out the only energy in the format that is pretty strong still is single strike energy. 2 copies of the Tyranitar, which does a ton of damage and discards cards off the top of your opponent's deck and yours, I think, both. I don't know. Stone Journer, which does a ton of damage as well for fighting, and this is basically for countering things that are weak to fighting. And I guess a single prizer. 2 minions, as always, a Drapion, a Radiant Street, and a Heal. I guess that makes sense. I don't know. Like, maybe there's a world where you still play Zard, but there's no special energies that work with Zard anymore. So I guess this is fine, yeah. Pumpkin Pit, Dunsparce, no mana fee, I guess, because there's no real, like, lightning attackers that can just ramp up and pop you. 2 Burnett's to kind of cheat out some stuff, because no quick balls. We're losing one of our more important balls. And we lose Evo Incense. So we actually lose 2 very important cards in the process. What does this stadium do? Messagoza, flip a coin if heads, search it for a Pokemon card, put it in their hand. So just another search card to get stuff into our hand. Reasonable. 2 Urns to recycle our single strike energy, one of the more powerful energies in this format. And then just the normal energies for Lugia, so Lugia can keep swinging. I would probably play a copy of Sharon's Care or something, just to pick up a Lugia that's damaged. But that's just my personal thought process. But this deck did get top 8, so I can't really speak on it. In 7th, we have Kohei playing Gardevoir again. Different build here. Very similar, actually. Very identical in nature. We have an Agatha and a Thornton to kind of make some cheeky plays. And then we have the Cruel Charge Articuno to just accelerate more energy into play and get the damage just ramped up. Yeah, very interesting. I'm not a huge fan of the Gardevoir deck because I think Stage 2 setups are a lot, but I can understand why it's good. And then we have, in 8th, we have Yuto playing Lost Zone Box. In 9th, we had Ryota playing Lugia Archeops. For all intents and purposes, I assume the Lugia decks are all single strike variant, because I don't think there's other good special energy in the format right now. In 10th, we have Hiroaki playing Mew. And then in 11th, we had Tsubasa playing Lugia Archeops again. This was our... Is this that one? No, okay. It's another single strike version, like we mentioned, with 2 Judge this time. Have your Path. Kind of just trying to slow your opponent down, because you're no longer the powerhouse you used to be with all the amazing rare attackers and all of the special energy that you can kind of use. And then we have Sora in 12th playing Lost Box. A little bit of an old school version, a little bit of an old school look, playing Trekking Shoes this time around. 2 copies of Clara, no longer playing the boss. We have the Kyogre to close out games. Dragonite and Raikou both making an appearance. Both still very powerful attackers, as we've seen. No Sky Sealstone plus Drapion in this combination of build, but 2 Forest Sealstone builds. So, a little bit interesting with Trekking Shoes. A little bit of a, I guess, turbo build, but you're not getting that turn 1 really either. I don't know. There's no Luminion, so you're not going for the turn 1. Trekking Shoes just making it so we get deeper into our deck, so Kyogre gets more efficient, I guess. Makes sense. Interesting. And 13th, we have Takumi playing Mew. And Takumi is just playing a very consistent DTE Mew with 3 Path, no Counter Stadium, 4 Vacuum once again, something that's, I think, a very interesting flavor, unique flavor to Japan, and Avery with 3 Judge. I don't know if I like this, but, I mean, it's working, it's having results, so I can't really complain. 3 Forest Sealstone, which is, I guess you're finding your way out of it, and we see Cross Switchers back in the list for the first time in a long time. So far, Cross Switchers have fallen out of favor, and I think that's going to potentially become the trend moving forward. Then we have Giratina from Takumi, which is unfortunate because we don't have the list from the only Giratina in the top 16. And then we have Yuki playing Lost Box. A little bit more of a traditional build with the Sableye and the Zard, using Snorlax as well, with double turbos because Twins, I believe, are gone from the format. And this Hawlucha does 10 damage to 2 bench Pokemon, I believe. So you have like your budget Zigzagoon. 1 Mirage Gate. I'd probably put that at 2. Somewhere along the line. But I understand. Basically just like old school Lost Box where it's just like, I'm going to get to my 4. I'm going to attack you. I'm going to make sure I get to Snorlax on the second attack. Snorlax again. Sableye to close out the game into a Zard. That's my 6 turns, 6 attacks, 6 prizes. So you have a path very clearly defined. You have very, very similar attackers. Clara makes a lot of sense. However, Clara does mean that you can't chain 2 Snorlax unless you have them in play. So you're going to have to basically go like Snorlax, Raihan, or Snorlax Gate for the first one, and then Snorlax, Raihan. So that has to be the exact combination before you can start going into Clara, Sableye, to close out the game. And then we have Masaki rounding out our top 16 with Mew again. This time Fusion Mew with Deoxys, sporting the 4 Fusion Energy. As always, 3 Forest Sealstones, making the Elastis turn 1 such an important thing. We see the 2 Vacuum, Lost City, and Collapse. No Path this time around, opting to actually draw cards, unlike the other versions we've seen. It's heavy copies of Boss, heavy copies of Rope, which is interesting, just get something off the bench. 2 copies of Nest Ball. Very, very interesting. There's less burnable cards than before, but obviously Fusion Mew does not have the greatest burnable cards already. But Deoxys becoming the single prize, I guess, like, threat in this deck is interesting because it does 160. And is a decent place to put your Fusion Strike energies. So that was the Champions League Aichi. With the new cards, we'll see. I don't know how this will translate to the States, obviously, or EUIC particularly, I guess, because we're going to Europe first. But it'll be a lot of fun to see how the format changes and develops. For now, this is our first look at post-rotation. I'll be doing a lot more post-rotation content coming up soon, guys, once I'm back from Vancouver this weekend. If you enjoyed this content, please like and subscribe. That's all I need you guys to do to help out the channel. Thank you. I appreciate it a lot. Have a great day.